And welcome back to the live morning show, presented as always by Don Bullock Chevrolet here on WHIG TV.
Now we got something different going on, and we have some special guests here to talk about it because I've heard of Nurses Appreciation Week. I've heard of all the other kind of weeks, healthcare weeks and all that kind of stuff. We got something different going on, and I'm sure it's been a professional appreciation that's been around, but it hasn't gotten the spotlight maybe it deserves. And so we're here for E911 Week. And so we have some special guests from Nash County E911 here with us today. Abby, who is a recent addition to Nash County's E911, and we've been talking off camera and getting to know each other. And Bryant Fisher, who is, what is your position with 911?
I'm the 911 director.
911 director. And so we're here to talk about what is E911 appreciation. And then we want to ask some questions about what's it like to be part of this organization.
Sure. Well, National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week is a week that was set aside to honor and recognize the employees of 911, the profession that it is. A lot of times you see that police officer, that firefighter, that EMS worker out there, and you see them and you show appreciation to them, but the focus is seldom on the one who truly takes that first call and the first responder that's on the scene by the phone, and it's just a way of showing our honor and recognition for the job that they do.
And there's a lot of pressure that goes on with that. And like you say, sometimes I believe they are the forgotten one, and the way they respond to that, they have to know, because you don't know if you're going to be dealing with someone just making a basic call if they're already having a panic attack. So I mean, I'm sure there's ways that they're trained to deal with that. So
Well, and as 911, and from the 70s till now, it's been introduced and slowly become the universal number.
Yeah.
It's we've heard the stories for years of a kid calls to tattle on his parents for punishing him. They call 911. It has become the number that catches everything, and I imagine the training that's gone into that. So you've been in this for years, Abby, as you're new to it. You have the benefit of they've had the experience of trying to figure out how to deal with that. Now you're coming into it, trained with how to deal with that. You've been on the force for a few months now. What's it been like to deal with the variety of calls?
Well, it's been kind of hard. I mean, you never really know what you're going to get whenever you answer the phone. So you always have to really be prepared and be focused and pay attention and really listen to what they have to say so that you can help them in the best way possible.
Now, does it take a good, and I'm being opinionated here, does it take a good empathetic heart to do this job?
I think you really have to care. You do. You have to kind of put yourself in their situation and understand why they're so excited and kind of get past all that so that you can really tell them.
Now, what's it like to talk somebody down from the emotion and to get to the important part is, how can I help you? What can I do to quickly help you now?
Well, it can be difficult at times because, when we're talking with that caller, it's at their worst moment. And during that time, we have to use techniques that we're trained to talk them down, to de-elevate, if you will, their stress level during that time.
Right.
And then once we get them to a level where they can understand what we're trying to do and help them, things then tend to be a lot better because then they listen to the questions that we're asking. And once we find out that information, we're able to provide pre-arrival instructions to them to help them while the first responders are on the way.
Right. And obviously training being a very important part of that, because I think after some time, training is very important, but sometimes after a while that instinct will kick in and you just kind of take over in regards to things like that. So yeah, very, very pressure filled situation. But like Clint was saying in the beginning, I think this is very important for us to take the time to recognize truly, like to say, the first responders, which are the people that take those type of calls. So what is it like just in general, just to kind of deal with the, I'd say maybe after about 4 or 5 hours of this, you're like, so how is that emotion and, dealing with that every day?
Well, I'm sure y'all are staffed in a way that you're allowed to take breaks and you're not overwhelmed and working too hard.
Step in for each other, yeah.
Well, they work 12-hour shifts, and after a hard call or several hard calls, our supervisor allows them to take a break, go out, get their composure, and take a deep breath, and try to get their mindset back on the job. And so it is crucial that we support one another. They work as a team in the center. So when one has to go out and step away for a break, then it's important that everyone else kind of gathers up and help one another.
And that takes knowing each other, knowing each other's personalities, what may upset one particular person, maybe more so than the other, being sensitive to that. So it really brings out, I would say, the teamwork in your situation as well.
Well, and you don't know, everyone has issues going on in their lives.
Exactly.
And, even
Exactly.
telecommunicators are no different.
That's true.
And depending on that call, it could affect them differently today than what it would if it had been yesterday or
That's a
tomorrow.
good point, yeah.
So Abby, I got a question for you, because you're relatively young, and we appreciate you staying in our community, being a young member of our
Yeah.
community, but did the word multitask, does it mean something completely different to you today than it did a year ago?
Yes. Oh my goodness. You're sitting there having to prioritize everything that you're doing, what's more important, what needs to be done right now, rather, what can wait.
So take us through a call, and I can kind of know a little bit of this because Wes is one of our friends, and I've learned while he was in training some of this stuff, because you're like a walking encyclopedia when you're getting training. But take us through the call, because it's not just a matter of receiving the call and talking to somebody. If you're also trying to dispatch, and you have to be detail oriented, and you got to be able to maintain conversation and keep whoever the client or customer on the side of the call happy and connected. But dispatching and trying to coordinate help and get the right address, what is that like going through that process?
Well, typically when somebody calls, we've got the map, so I can look and kind of plot where they're at. If they don't know exactly where they're at, maybe they might be on a side street or in the middle of nowhere. They don't know where they're at. So while they're telling me what's going on, I'm kind of looking at the map, trying to figure out exactly where they're at.
So you're doing that at the same time that you're on the call with them. So
Yes.
you're doing two things at once already.
Yes. So if they can tell me exactly where they're at, I'll go ahead and get all that information from them and then ask them exactly what happened. So they'll go ahead and tell me exactly what happened. I'm entering in all the information, asking them questions and trying to calm them down at the same time. And then while I'm doing that, my partner's already getting help on the way. So I'm paired up with a partner. While I'm getting all the information, my partner's already dispatching the call, providing follow-up instructions, all that kind of stuff.
Great. And so does having the partnership, does that help? So because if you ever get in the weeds,
Yes.
you've got somebody that you can lean on that can help take that stress and help
Yes.
you get through to it. So who came up with this system? Because I remember back in the day, the old Adam 12 TV show, your 911 operator was one person sitting there doing everything all at once. How did it evolve to the system we have today?
Well, back in the day, the first 911 call was placed in Haleyville, Alabama in 1968. And, prior to that, even we're in our situation, we had basic 911. And even before that, we had 10-digit dial, which means you had to memorize or know a number. If you remember on the old telephones, you had that sticker up there that said,
That's
had the
right.
phone number on
That's
there.
right.
That was the emergency number. And through time and technology and so forth, it has evolved into basic 911 to where at that time we would be able to, you would dial 911, we'd answer the call. We wouldn't have the map and we wouldn't have all the other sophisticated equipment, but at least all you had to do was dial 911 instead of a 10-digit number.
Right.
Then it evolved into enhanced 911, where now we have it, as soon as you pick up that phone, the map is being displayed with where your location is and all the other technology that goes along with it.
Well, and here's got to be the most perplexing thing on the technology side. With cell phones.
Absolutely.
And so it's one thing if I have a smartphone and I'm on Verizon and you can use that for location services, but if I'm on a burner phone,
Right.
if I'm on a landline with a private number, how have y'all evolved again to be able to serve customers who, not intentionally, but they've basically put obstacles in your way
Right.
of trying to help them?
Right.
Well, with those type of phones, cell phone technology, about 75 to 85% of our 911 calls are placed by cell phones today. So when we take those calls, it is important that that technology is up to date and our phone system is up to date to be able to receive that. But it does create an obstacle with those technologies, because you have to kind of go hand in hand with the phones. With the phone carriers plus the phone systems, they have to kind of mirror each other and match up to one another in order for you to get the benefit out of it. When cell phones first came out, it was an obstacle because that technology was new and systems won't up to snuff, if you will, with what was taking place.
So if a cell phone call comes in, let's say, and the reason I ask this because you see those commercials that are always talking about don't make an emergency, make sure you have a landline. If a cell phone call comes in, can you immediately get the location, or they have to stay on for a few seconds for you to target? You see what I'm saying? Because how quickly
How do
are you
y'all
able to
pinpoint a
target?
location?
Typically, most phones will, what we classify as phase 2. That means it's going to plot you on the map. A lot of times, though, depending on the location and many other factors, it may come in as what we could consider phase 1, which means it's going to give us the tower location to start with.
Okay.
Then we've got a rebid that we can perform on our system that will then go out there and retrieve that data once
Gotcha.
again and switch it over to a phase 2, and then at
Gotcha.
that time we're plotting the caller on the map.
But most of them already come in the phase 2?
That's right.
Okay, but just in case they don't, yeah.
We've
Okay.
got the technology there to be able to
All
switch
right.
it over.
Now, Abby, we're going to let you go in just a second and let Mr. Rivas come in, but in this job, again, you've only been in it for a few months, and you've been in it for years. I'm sure you've had to already deal with some very difficult calls, and yet you still came back. What makes you do that? What makes you want to be in the position you're in and to deal with such difficult situations?
Well, it is really a pleasure to help somebody, and it means a lot whenever I'm hanging up the phone and somebody will really say thank you, because in an emergency you're not really thinking about that. You just want to get off the phone. Whenever you see the ambulance, you just want to hang up. But when someone really says thank you and you can tell that they mean it, it just means a lot, and it makes me want to come back tomorrow and do the same thing.
Oh, well, and that's nice to hear, because
Right.
you don't want to think of somebody who can get burnt out in this situation. I'm
Right.
sure it can take an emotional toll, that you have to have a support system and the fraternity of what you're doing.
Right,
But
right.
you also have to have that strong heart. You have to be that person with a strong backbone to do the job you're doing. So I want to say thank you
Yeah, absolutely.
for doing what you did.
Absolutely, and to piggyback on what Clint was saying, I think it's really neat to have this type of recognition, because I'll be honest with you, I mean, regular citizens, we probably don't think and give enough thanks to you guys for what you do and the crucial role that you play. Like you say, there's adaptability, there's emotion, there's so much that goes on. So yeah, I mean, this has given me the opportunity to step back and say thank you as well for that. And so yeah, on behalf
Well, and
of us
again, you
both.
think of the
yeah.
variety of calls, and we haven't covered all that, but I think of
Right.
somebody who's thinking of committing suicide.
Exactly.
You got to be trained to deal with that's an entirely different aspect than saving somebody whose house is on fire.
That's right. That's
You
right.
have to be trained in so many different aspects. And that's got to be a burden on y'all to try to develop the service that can meet such a wide gamut of needs.
and the pressure to remember what to say at the right time, because, training, is there, but, instinct, as I mentioned earlier, just got to kick in there as well. So it's a very pressure-filled job. We appreciate y'all for what you do.
We
Thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much.
And, just to go off of what you just said, we've got a system in place from the emergency academies of emergency dispatch. And there's 3 protocols: EMD, EFD, and EPD, and those allow us to
I just
have the
heard
exact
D.
questions.
Yeah.
So it's all key toward the specific protocol that you're looking for, depending on the type of emergency.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
that way, we're all asking the same questions, gathering the same information for the responders.
All right.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break. Not a commercial break yet, Johnny. We're just going to take a quick break. We're going to swap out a guest,
Okay.
and then we'll come back with just a few more questions.
Okay.
All right, welcome back to WHIG.
TV.
Another inside joke there.
That's right.
So we have swapped out guests, and Mark Rivas,
Revis.
Revis. I
Yes,
told you.
Which we went through.
Is also with E911 with Nash County. And what is your role with E911?
I serve as the program manager / training officer.
Okay.
I'm Bryant's number 2 guy, if you will, of the division of 911, and I also spend a lot of time with our employees training. That's
Gotcha.
my emphasis, and that's where I spend the majority of my day is involved in the training aspect of 911 emergency dispatchers.
So we've talked a good bit the last few minutes about what y'all do and how y'all do it, but you're in the process of bringing in the new recruits and training them up and making them, put them into the seat and on the phone and getting them to work. How would somebody who's interested in this reach out and get the training they need and get involved with E911?
Great question. I'm glad you asked. First and foremost, thank you all for allowing us here today.
Glad to have you.
The number one reason we're here is to honor and recognize our 911 professionals in Nash County and throughout the nation. Today is a special day. However, it's also a week in which we really want to go out and market, if you will, a program that we're very proud of, and that's the Nash County 911 Dispatch Academy. Nash Community College and Nash County Emergency Services back last February of 2016, we came together and under some collaborative efforts and some partnerships, we have come together and we have formed the first ever in the state of North Carolina a 911 Dispatch Academy. This 911 Dispatch Academy, in fact, Abby, that you interviewed just moments ago, attended the academy and successfully graduated as an honor student. We've actually hired 8 from previous academies. We currently have an academy taking place now at the college. It's a 120-hour course. We basically lay out the principles and foundation, if you will, of 911 emergency services and communications. And we also require 24 hours of observation time in our 911 center. So the cadet gets to experience.
To get immersed in it before they're actually let loose into it.
Exactly. And they enjoy that. And we would love to get the information out, get the word out. Our next academy will start on June the 20th this year, June 20th, 2017. We run the academy every Tuesday and Thursday night from 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. And we also run...
So if somebody currently has a day job, are they looking at maybe shifting to something
Absolutely.
else? Or if they're already in college, but they want to be able to take some night classes to get their career going, you've given them that flexibility.
Absolutely. And ironically, you mentioned that. Abby, the previous guest, our telecommunicator, she was enrolled in the criminal justice program, the 2-year degree program at the college. And in addition to that, she also wanted to get in this academy. So we see nothing but huge benefits from this. Again, the next academy starts June the 20th. If you're interested, if you know anyone interested, please contact Olivia Moss at Nash Community College, and her number is 451-8355.
Say that again, slower for us.
Sure, absolutely. Olivia Moss, and her number is 451-8355. The class, again, meets every Tuesday and Thursday night from 6 to 10, but we'd also meet on 3 Saturdays. The Saturday sessions consist of an entire day, 8 to 5 with an hour for lunch. We meet at 3 different locations. We meet at the college occasionally. We meet in our Emergency Operations Center, which is next door to our 911 center in the county office building. And we also meet at our backup public safety answering point, or backup or alternate 911 center in Rocky Mount over on the hospital campus. But again, 120 hours total, plus the 24 hours of observation in our center. And it's just an exciting class. Sherry Mullen, one of our telecommunicators, assists or co-teaches with me. I'm the lead instructor, but we bring in guest speakers to speak with the cadets, and they seem to really enjoy the program.
That's fascinating.
It is.
and again, for those who are interested in whether it's you, family members, children, grandchildren, that kind of stuff, somebody who's looking at this as an opportunity for the future, especially they have that giving heart, that heart
Absolutely.
where they certainly have a calling to help people. This is something, one of those opportunities that maybe doesn't come first to mind.
Right.
But also, you're part of, again, the whole fraternity of public safety. It is not just the police and fire department. That tends to be who everybody thinks of when
Sure.
they think about it. And little kids, they go dress up for Halloween. I don't know that there's that many E911 uniforms out there collecting candy, but you're just as big a part of the infrastructure as the rest of it. Explain to the folks who are listening, y'all are also a public agency. How are y'all funded and operated?
Sure. Most of our funding, or a lot of our funding, comes from the tax dollars that citizens pay. In addition to that, we do have, if you've ever noticed on your phone bill, there's a 60-cent 911 surcharge fee on there. A lot of that money is collected by the state, and then based on the formula, is distributed out to the 911 centers across the state. And then that funding from the 911 money actually is what helps aid in keeping the equipment updated that you see in the centers,
Okay.
the phone equipment and the CAD, the computer-aided dispatch equipment, and so forth. So it's kind of a split, but a lot of our funding really comes from the tax dollars that we
And I
all
think
pay.
that's important because, again, for those who watch this show, I'm very much a conservative and in small government and all that kind of stuff. But there are needs for tax dollars for certain things. Infrastructure and public safety are at the top of that list.
Right.
Firefighters, and I've said this before on the show, anybody who's in public safety should get, anybody who wears a helmet, anybody who's helping the people should earn more protecting the people than somebody who wears a helmet and protects a football. It's not the society we live in, but that's how I strongly feel about that. Nonetheless, you're a beneficiary of what the citizens pay out of taxes, what they pay on their phone systems, and we benefit from what you do. And I don't want that to get lost, because when we hear about taxes and budgets and counties and cities, that's something that tends to get lost in those arguments. It's about how much is coming out of my pocket, or how much you're going to spend on building a road to nowhere. They tend to forget about the public safety side.
Right.
Now, again, going back to the training, when do you know that somebody's ready? When somebody can flip from reading a script to having a natural ability to empathize with somebody and help them?
You know, usually you never go wrong with your gut instinct.
But that's the thing. It's
Yeah.
one thing to have the script in front of you.
Right.
It's another thing when you're given a real situation,
Sure.
and you've got to do it in the real world.
Absolutely. You know, usually, and that's a great question, and being in the 911 industry for 24 years, I can sort of gauge and get good insight as to about the third week of the academy if the student or the cadet will go on and work in a 911 center. And so far my gut has been right about 95% of the time. You get a good feel just by sitting down and talking with the individual, getting to know them in the first few weeks of class. And you already are assessing, they don't even realize it, but to some degree you're already assessing their multitasking ability, their prioritizing skills in class before they really even are able to determine what it is you're doing as an instructor. So you can sort of gauge pretty quickly. So far, our success rate of the academy, everyone has successfully graduated. We hold a very formal ceremony at the end of the 120-hour completion. They earn a certificate, and it's a very formal celebration. Once they are hired and go on and work in 911, we typically put them with a training officer or a preceptor or someone that's responsible for training on that shift. And we're keeping in constant contact with all of those involved in the training by daily observation reports, by communicating with those involved in the training. You know, it's like Mom always said, it takes a village to raise kids. Well, it takes a village to train a 911 dispatcher as well. It's not only me, it's not only Bryant, but it's all of us. It's everyone working together as a team to ensure that person is trained adequately and they become proficient.
And I'm sure that there's some people that may be watching, and maybe this is piquing their interest, or know someone that they're going to share this with that may pique their interest. And sometimes people come into any situation, particularly training, with a little fear, a little trepidation. Talk a little bit about that process. You know, maybe whereas if someone stumbles a little bit, you know, what is in place to kind of help them through that, not to give up on them, because you know, a lot of times you can push them, give them a little bit of, you know, self-confidence, encouragement. How do you do that as well? Because I'm sure you run into that.
Absolutely, good question. What we like to do is sit down with individuals. Part of our QA/QI, Quality Assurance, Quality Improvement program involves mentoring to the people and bringing them in and doing some one-on-one exercises and role-playing and scenario-based activities. So we bring them in, and we may even bring them in for some occasional remedial sessions to sort of sharpen their skills, to sort of make them a little better. We identify through our QA/QI program those deficiencies or those issues of concern, and we look at individual trends. For example, we could find that Abby is neglecting to do one certain thing on every call. So we identify that as a trend. We bring her in, we meet with her. She's doing great. She's excellent. But we would bring her in, talk with her, and just go over and review a remedial session and just go over those highlights and discuss those to make her better.
And that's important to have that.
One last question before we wrap up, and this is again in an appreciation for what y'all do. A lot of us, a whole lot of us in our community, in our world, work in the private sector, and we get our weekends, and we get our holidays, we get our nights. Y'all never close. You never close. How do y'all deal with having to be on the phone, available all the time, every time? Absolutely 100%.
Probably just get used to it. Huh?
Well, in terms of staffing's got to be a challenge for that too, because everybody wants a holiday. Everybody wants to spend time with their family.
You know, staffing is a challenge. We currently have 23 full-time telecommunicators. We've got 5 on a shift, 4 shifts. which leaves 3 personnel. We consider those our peak time employees. They come in during the heaviest call volume times and help out.
Is that Saturday at 8 p.m.?
We have identified that through statistics on what those days are or times are during the days, and so we've got, the way we've got our schedule, we've got 1 additional person scheduled at those times during the day to help out. But staffing is a challenge because, as you said, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, people are going to get sick, people need vacation.
Sure.
So we do have 5 part-time employees that are also equally trained as the full-time staff is. So if a part-time employee comes in and fills that role, there's no lapse in the coverage or the amount of certification that we're offering is still the same because they have the same certifications, the same training, everything is equal. So,
Well, and I just want to say, and again, an appreciation.
Absolutely.
You have a job that doesn't ever quit. You have a job that never ends.
Yeah.
And you hang up the phone, you're waiting for that next call to help the next person. You're getting paid, let's be honest, you do get paid for it, but you're probably not getting paid nearly enough for what you do for this entire community. So from our position, from the station, for our citizens out there, I want to say thank y'all for what you do.
Thank you.
And appreciate that because I don't want to do that. I don't want to work a job where and personally, everybody has their decisions. I don't want to do that. I'm glad you're there to do that for me.
There you go.
And I can rely on that. I know there are very few things in this world you can rely on. Death and taxes being one of them. The other is I can dial E911 and you're going to answer the phone.
Answer the phone.
That's a strong thing to have in a society of reliability, is just to know there is somebody there.
Absolutely.
Well, you referenced earlier, and a couple of times throughout the conversation, we talked a little bit about the money. And the average salary for a 911 telecommunicator in the state of North Carolina ranges from around $32,000 to $35,000.
Right.
But I tell people in the academy, those cadets, and I tell others that express an interest in the 911 profession, while $32,000 to $35,000 a year is a decent living, it certainly could be a lot more, and we would like to see that.
Yeah, yeah.
But the benefits and the rewards of leaving work, having done a job, and having and that feeling of helping someone, and just all the other benefits of making a positive difference in the people's lives in their darkest hour, that makes it all worthwhile.
Well, again, you're not doing this for the money. You're not a teacher for the money. You're not a fireman. You're not a police officer in Eastern North Carolina to get rich. You
That's
do it
right.
because you have a calling, you have a satisfaction that you need to help other people.
Absolutely.
And not all of us have that gene. And again, thank y'all for having that gene.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
well, and it does take a special person.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
a lot of times we've had
Sure.
employees come through and 2 months into it, they're
Yes.
like, "Look, this is not what I expect. It's more than I
Right.
can handle."
Right.
And that's okay because it's not for everyone.
Right.
So,
Certainly.
it's good that they recognize that.
Yeah. Well, we hope that this segment has brought some more awareness and appreciation for our E911 responders, for those that are watching.
And you may never need it. You
Yep.
may never have to pick up the phone and dial
But it's
E911
there if you do.
yourself. Maybe a neighbor
Yeah.
does. Maybe somebody else does.
Sure.
You may never have to. But if you do, they're going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just in this day and age of reliability and trust and the problems we have in society and politics and all that stuff, you can count on y'all to be there. That's a
Absolutely.
big thing to be appreciative of in our society.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mark, Bryant, and Abby have been our guests from E911 Communications. We
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank y'all so
y'all.
much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Abby,
Thank y'all very much.
She looks a little bit more comfortable over there right now, so, but no, you did a great job.
Yep.
Stay with us. We'll be back with our final look at weather and maybe 1 or 2 more headlines. You're watching the live morning show presented as always by Don Bullock Chevrolet. We'll be right back.